this showing. Call to order. Adoption of agenda.
Recommendation that council adopt the agenda as presented.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Number 3, adoption of minutes.
Recommendation that council approve the minutes from the regular council meeting held on April the 3rd, 2019.
Can I get a second here?
I will.
Any discussion? All in favor? Introduction of late items, there'll be 2 letters from residents, 10.0 and 10.1.
Worship.
Council?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot.
That's
There's also,
not-
there's 8.3 as well, the letter from
Northern Health?
Northern Health.
8.3, Northern Health, invitation.
Question.
Have a seconder first?
Okay, I have a question about these added. You say 10, that's under resolutions? Is that where you're
Should be
putting?
9.10 and 9.11.
9.11, sorry.
Chris?
So I sent you the
9.11.
Thank you.
9.11. Christopher. So can I have a seconder?
Second.
All in favor? Public hearing, none. Delegation 6.1 recommendation.
The council hear the delegation from CAP.
Can I have a seconder? All in favor? Come on up.
I'd be worried if the answer was no. So thank you very much for having me up, and for Sandy in particular for making the arrangements. So I know a few of you around the table. We've had a community and stakeholder engagement program at CAP for the last 6 probably years or so. We've taken a fairly casual approach to our relationship with the councils in Northeast BC, but this year I want to get out before each of them. And so over the course of April, we're making our rounds in the region before each of the councils. So I really just want to give you kind of a brief overview of the state of the industry today and what our forecast for 2019 looks like. And then to give you a sense of what we're working on from a kind of key policy priority standpoint as the association that represents the oil and gas producers in Canada. So we've got about 60 members or so, and they produce about 80% of all of Canada's oil and natural gas. We have our members have operations right across the country, including here, of course, in BC. We have everything from small privately held companies that produce all the way up to the big multinationals. They get your gasoline from at the pumps. And our 2 largest members, though, are actually Calgary-based and Canadian companies. So I always like to give kind of the world context of the industry and where we stand today. So this is a forecast of energy needs around the world as a whole by energy type. And the main message here is that going out until at least 2040, the world is going to need more energy in all of its forms. So despite the transition to using more renewable energy around the world, the reality is that the energy mix is going to continue to focus on fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. In particular, though, natural gas is growing quite rapidly in this projection here from the International Energy Agency. And that's because countries like China, India, in particular, other Asian countries though as well, are looking to provide more energy to help lift their people out of poverty, and they want to do that using efficient, inexpensive, but also clean fuel, and that's what natural gas provides in that context. And of course that provides a great opportunity here in Northeast British Columbia with great natural gas resources that we have in the province, and into Alberta with the Montney development in particular. So the question for the world really is where do they get their resources from? And we would argue as the association representing Canadian oil and gas producers that they should get that resource from here in British Columbia, in Alberta, because we can produce the cleanest, lowest emitting energy within that natural gas mix. Right here in British Columbia, taking advantage of our electric resources as well, we can provide the cleanest natural gas in the world to the world. The problem, though, is we can't currently today reach those world markets. And as a result of that, we're seeing investment in the oil and gas sector decline. In 2014, if we had taken the slide out a little bit further before the current downturn that we're facing, which we're now into our 6th year of. The oil and natural gas industry in Canada invested $81 billion worth of capital into the Canadian economy. By far the largest sector making those kinds of capital investments. Today, we're still the largest capital investor by economic sector, but we're at less than half of that investment where we were at in 2014. Some of it is due to policy and regulations and inefficient, more expensive system, but primarily it's because we can't access markets. We're being pushed out of natural gas markets in the eastern part of the continent by U.S. producers who are a lot closer to those markets, and our oil pipelines are full. Most of that capital investment, of course, goes into drilling wells. In 2018, we drilled just over 6,100 wells. This year, we're forecasting that we'll be off by about 10% of that, and only drill around 5,500 wells this year. So, again, directly related to all those challenges that of reaching markets. This is really just a slide to prompt me to talk about the situation for natural gas. So this represents the average monthly price of AECO on the spot market. I think everybody's aware we've had depressed natural gas prices since 2008. What this doesn't show is the real challenge that producers are facing today, and that's volatility in our natural gas markets. And so prices can fluctuate by as much as $1 from day to day. It makes it really difficult for producers to plan when your average price is about $1.50 and you get fluctuations of $1 or more in any given day. What it also doesn't show, because it's monthly average prices, is that at times over the last 3 years, and we're likely to face it again this year, we've actually had negative pricing for natural gas. And so what that means is producers are having to pay people to get rid of the natural gas. And it's kind of a perversion in the markets in some ways. It's likely to continue because the development has shifted up to this particular region on both sides of the border, where producers are really getting their economic value out of the liquids. And so those are heavier hydrocarbons, not oil, in particular condensate, of which there's lots in this particular region. And so producers are able to deal with the low prices in this area by taking economic advantage of those liquids. The challenge in the current period that we face is that the demand and the pricing for those liquids is highly dependent upon oil pricing, and in particular our heavy oil and oil sands, because most of those liquids are being shipped to Fort McMurray to help dilute oil from the oil sands so that it can be shipped by pipeline. So all of these stories in our oil and gas sector in Canada are tied together, even though we largely talk about LNG and natural gas here in British Columbia. So I don't have the last few months of this chart, but I'll talk about it. World prices started to drop pretty quickly for oil. Generally, around the world, in the fall, those prices have recovered, but it was particularly bad here in Canada, in Alberta, because our pipelines are full. We were starting to face a very steep discount on our oil. The government of Alberta was facing a situation where they would essentially collect no royalties at the prices that we were headed towards with those large differentials. The worst case scenario I heard of was a producer of heavy oil, actually in Saskatchewan, who signed a contract for 16 cents a barrel. So it was getting really bad. And that's why the Alberta government ultimately stepped in to put a cap on our production in Alberta, which has pluses and minuses to it, but ultimately it helped stabilize prices and close that differential and allowed producers to continue with more reasonable certainty, I guess, in the marketplace. It would have been quite ugly if the market had to sort out itself, I guess. And so, because of that, condensate, to go back to the local story, also was taking a pretty steep hit in prices during that time as well. Those markets are a little less transparent, but I think things are a bit better for producers now that that differential is close to it. We're seeing local producers start to draw back on their capital investment plans as well as a result of that. So that's what we face. 2019 is not going to be a very great year compared to the last couple, unfortunately. And again, the fix for that is to get LNG built and to get additional oil pipelines built Some of the policy files that we're dealing with here in BC and federally, the first I'll mention is the hydraulic fracturing review. So there's a commitment of the current government to start the scientific panel to look at our practices, our operating practices as an industry and how it's regulated. They released a report a few weeks ago now with 97 recommendations. I think our biggest worry was that there'd be some sort of recommendation on a moratorium, which we wouldn't feel was justified based on science. That's not what it recommends at all. The recommendations actually that we've taken a look at, our initial read is that of the 97, industry and or government collectively are actually already in progress working on a lot of those issues that they areas that they recommend we take a look at. So the government's coming out with some kind of work plan in May. They've committed. So we look forward to working with them on the response to the recommendations. And as an industry, we've always been committed to continually improving our practices. So on the basis of what we see, we don't see any significant red flags. We think overall, we can work with what's there. But we do have to wait for the government's response. So in the LNG world, to give the current government some credit, Bill 10, which was passed by the legislature a couple weeks ago, reworked the fiscal framework for LNG in the country. It makes us more competitive with respect to other jurisdictions that are producing LNG. Without that deal, LNG Canada probably wouldn't have been able to go ahead, and other projects behind them would have probably been taken off the books. So it was a very positive step for us. I guess the other comment I would make with respect to LNG is one large-scale project on the coast of British Columbia is not going to solve our industry's long-term challenges. We do need more offtake capacity. So our hope is that additional projects will move forward. Chevron, which leads Kitimat LNG, recently had to go back to the NEB to seek a renewal of their permit to export gas. Even though the project isn't built, they haven't taken a final investment decision. They needed to renew that certificate. And when they did that, they actually asked for a near doubling of their export capacity. And so that, nobody knows what they'll end up doing. It's not a final investment decision, but it sends positive signals that they're still interested in Canadian gas. So that's another kind of good piece of news in that story. Caribou is obviously a hot topic in the region. I've seen the coverage, I've seen the photos of 400 people at town halls. It's obviously got people's attention in the region. I guess what I would say here is the current conversation is largely around the southern mountain caribou. I know the stakeholders in the region have been frustrated that the oil and gas sector hasn't been at the table expressing itself. The reality is the southern mountain caribou, where they reside, isn't on oil and gas development land. So we haven't really been directly involved in that. We're watching it closely, obviously, because further north we do have the boreal caribou, and that conversation is coming, and what that looks like. What I would say there. Sorry, yeah.
Caribou are actually in the Pine Pass then?
So those would be southern mountain caribou. So they're I don't know if it's a different species or different subspecies that are closely related, but they behave differently and exist in a different location. So what I would say with caribou, with respect to our industry and those boreal caribou, as an industry, we believe that we can contribute to habitat recovery, to population recovery. We've been doing that. As an industry, we've contributed over $10 million over the years to research and other initiatives. And that was through an MOU with the provincial government. So that MOU expired last August, I believe. And we're currently in discussions with the provincial government to see what an agreement would look like going forward. But those discussions have been a little more private in nature.
Would it not be easier for just to get a hold of the Westmo and the SODA? Wouldn't it be easier to make an agreement with them and leave the government totally out of it?
So we have been working with First Nations over the years too. So there are a couple of programs that are maternal penning, essentially. So we've got a big fence in the middle of the bush. to house the caribou for part of the year until they give birth, and the calves have a more reasonable chance of success. So those have been through partnerships with First Nations, both in that region, but also up in Fort Nelson as well. We have a couple of projects. So they, we've all been part of that discussion. Yeah. That leads me into kind of land use planning because it's related. So kind of in the broader land use planning landscape in the province, we've got a number of initiatives from the current government, further north of here mostly. They're taking a look at the Fort St. John LRMP. They have what's called the RCA interim measures, which is special measures worked out between the province and Blueberry. And we've got other initiatives that the government is consulting on in this space. So our expression to the provincial government is, we've got a lot going on in this area. Industry needs some certainty there. We want to be a partner, but because of the nature of the consultation, that makes it very difficult for industry. It's very complex, and we're looking for some simplicity there. I think the government has heard us. I think they're hearing the same thing from other stakeholders as well in other areas of the province too. And I guess the other thing is we need to recognize and we appreciate that all of this is part of the provincial government's efforts at reconciliation with First Nations as well. That's also important to our industry. But we just want to make sure that our interests are properly heard and considered in that process. We've been getting reasonable assurances from the government there, but again, looking for more simplicity in that conversation, I would say. And then to conclude on a couple federal initiatives, we have two pieces of legislation currently before the Senate that are of significant concern to our industry. The first is Bill C-69, which revamps the environmental assessment process federally for major projects. In our view, that bill requires significant amendments. We proposed those amendments in 7 different areas of the legislation. I won't get into all of them today, but without those, it's unlikely that future major projects will go forward. CEPA, which is the Canadian Energy Pipeline Association, has been very vocal on this front and said that if Bill C-69 is passed in its current form, none of their members will propose another major pipeline in the country again. So it's a real concern. The other thing I would add there is it's not just about the oil and gas industry. That's where most of the conversation has been publicly. But anybody looking to build anything big in the country will be impacted the same way. So whether it's a pipeline, whether it's an electrical transmission line or a major dam, if it's a mine, in certain cases, if it's a municipality looking to build a bridge over a river, it impacts all of that major infrastructure. So it is a concern, ought to be a concern for other sectors as well. We're not alone in that conversation. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other one is Bill C-48, which would implement a moratorium on shipping of crude off the north coast of British Columbia. Obviously, in our view, it's unwarranted. It unnecessarily cuts off access to a key part of the coastline for future shipments of oil. The other thing is it's not actually based on science, and that's been our major tact on that. If we can, and we do, ship oil out of the Port of Vancouver safely every day, if we can ship oil into the St. Lawrence River, as we do every day from other jurisdictions, we can ship safely oil off the coast of northern British Columbia. The other thing is, even if their goal is, as they say, to keep oils that persist on the water off of the water, it doesn't accomplish that either. So the bill is structured in such a way that allows certain products that persist on the water to continue to persist on the water if there is a spill, and it prohibits the shipping of things like condensate in this area that actually don't persist on the water. So it doesn't, even from a scientific point of view, accomplish what they say they're looking to accomplish. So those are the issues. Happy to take questions, and here we go.
What is CAP doing about your members and orphan sites?
Yeah, so it's been of significant concern to us, particularly in Alberta. also working with the regulator, the OGC here, the province here, to set up a more robust regime here. We don't have the same situation today, but we don't want to get in the situation where we're in Alberta either, because at the end of the day, it's the industry that pays for that cleanup. It's not the taxpayer, so industry has an interest in making sure we get that right. So legislation was recently passed to revamp that system to make it more robust, to take it off, and I'm not the expert on this, but currently it's actually a liability for the OGC, and they're not allowed to carry debt, and so that's one of their concerns. So it essentially creates a separate fund that again is going to be paid for by industry, but to make sure that we're retiring those assets in a way that it doesn't build up like it has in Alberta.
What's the time limit? Like, is it not within 2 years, or you don't have a time limit on these?
So I know there have been discussions back and forth on this. I'll have to get back to you, and I will get back to you on that, but I just don't have an answer off the top of
There
my
was
head.
actually a court case, right?
Yeah, that was the other consideration is, it's called Redwater out of from a name of a company that went bankrupt in Alberta. ATB took the provincial government to court over the liability system there. That was resolved in a way that's beneficial to industry and to government, thankfully, but that was part of the driver of why we're looking at this. As the details of what that system is going to look like in BC, it's in flight now, so I'll get back to you on that though. I'll get you something in writing.
Okay. Another question?
Yep.
What is CAP doing for public relations on the southern part of BC?
Yep.
The voting they have the majority of people down there. We have a voice, but they're not listening. So what is CAP doing to educate and bring the importance of LNG, mining industry, whatever? Because we need some education down there.
Agreed. So 2 things I would say. I have 2 colleagues who do outreach on the ground across the Lower Mainland, in places like Abbotsford, Surrey, Burnaby, Vancouver itself. So we have that program specifically. The other thing is, a number of years ago, CAP, had a significant advertising budget. It's less today than it was. But we, produced like TV ads, and they ran nationally across the country. We've become a lot more focused and deliberate in our advertising efforts. So most of that has shifted to be online, where we can target specific areas and specific demographics. So almost all of that effort is targeted at the Lower Mainland, British Columbia, and Ontario, as well as some other places, to hopefully have a better influence on the national conversation. And I would say, I know it's still frustrating, we still don't have pipe on the ground, for some of these projects, but we have seen a shift in public opinion and in the debate that we're seeing across the country, in part as a result of that, and large part because of the efforts of others as well. But we are starting to see a shift, I would say.
Maybe because they're starving.
Well, I think, the current downturn has brought to people's minds in other parts of the country how important the industry is. And that it's not just about, big corporations and the towers in Calgary making money. It's actually about real people, about their homes, their families, their communities. So.
Did the mayor go to Fort McMurray from Victoria? Has she had a
She was on the 16th of April.
I don't, is she? Okay, I don't, to be
That's-
honest.
Yesterday. So we'll get the news in a couple days.
I thought it would hit the news the day she went.
You would think that she's probably maybe can go.
Okay.
Does CAP support a process of refining prior to, as opposed to shipping raw product?
Yeah, so we don't really have a position on it, to be honest. If somebody were to build a refinery, it's beneficial to the industry. It's another place for us to sell our product, so we could support it. The reality is the economics of building refining capacity in North America is really challenged right now. The reality is we have an excess of refining capacity in North America. If you look at Asian markets, They want to refine those products close to home. It's economically more efficient for that to occur. It allows them to get the mix of products that they want to get, close to home. So the market is for our crude oil. That's the reality. If those market conditions were to change, we would certainly support it. The provincial government in Alberta has put money into, it's called partial upgrading, which basically is a first crack at refining heavy crude. That helps us with some of our pipeline capacity, so the economics are a bit better there, but just the economics are really difficult. Where the economics do work for that value add kind of conversation is really in the natural gas and natural gas liquid space. And we're seeing a lot of build out there next door in Alberta in particular. Because those products are so cheap right now domestically, the economics there actually do work. So not opposed, it's just the economics really don't make a lot of sense.
Cost.
Your plastics that you dispose of out in the oil and gas, what happens? How do you dispose of them?
I don't know.
The plastic. There is an issue we discussed with the agricultural plastics
Okay.
and also the plastic, the oil and gas. And maybe it's a possibility that we could team up, and we are having some research done
Okay.
by the Northern University.
Okay. So on that front, because it's more operational based, CAP, doesn't do a lot of work in those kinds of spaces, but would encourage you to talk to the local operators and see, what their approach is and what you can learn from
My
them.
husband's actually a well operator.
Okay.
They actually take the barrels and they actually sell them.
Okay.
But I'm talking about the black plastic.
Yes, the black plastic, those 3 barrels that are sitting in my yard, they actually take them and they actually sell them. There's a place that they take them to and they actually sell them to.
And plastic
Those barrels.
sheets, no,
You're talking about the dugouts?
yeah, the plastic on the bottom of the dugouts, when they get a hole in them or
Yeah.
something, they've got to replace it and all that. What do they do with that?
Liners.
Liners.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I would explore it with them. I think, can't speak for them obviously, but, in most cases, if they're not doing something responsible with it, I'm sure if there's an opportunity that they would look at that, but I just don't know what their operating practices are.
It would be the oil company's discretion.
No ongoing plans, let's go east, young man?
So with natural gas, we have, as an industry, we work with TransCanada to reduce some tolling there, and that actually helps kind of push back the Americans a little bit and stabilize our exports to Eastern Canada. Oil, there are just no viable projects on the books right now. There was Energy East, the company pulled out of that project and put their money elsewhere. I don't know what it would take at this point to change that conversation and to get a company to come forward to do that. It seems to me to make a lot of sense to provide Canadian oil to Canadian refineries. But for a number of reasons, TransCanada pulled out of that project, and there's just not another viable one on the books. If there were, of course, we would support it.
So with Trans Mountain now, I understand the First Nations have expressed an interest in purchasing a portion or percentage of that. Are there ongoing talks now with regards to that?
Yeah, so I'm sure the feds are having those conversations. The federal government owns it now. They, at the time of purchasing it, they indicated they would want to find a buyer for it. So that seems to make sense on a lot of fronts. We don't really have a position on that. It would be a commercial interest kind of piece, but our main concern is making sure that we get that expansion built. Yeah.
So
and
how does
that
CAP feel
helps.
about the election last night?
I think to be seen. I think it's going to make the federal-provincial dynamic quite interesting, the inter-provincial dynamic quite interesting. Based on some of the rhetoric that was used, I think we'll have to see where that goes. The Premier-elect last night made an effort in a speech to start reaching out, so maybe some of that rhetoric changes, I don't know. And then the other piece of concern will be what happens with respect to climate policy in the province. how that impacts industry, but also whether, what is being proposed satisfies the federal government, or if they feel the need to then impose, federal policy or not. So it's going to lead to some uncertainty for the next while, but we'll see.
Somebody's gonna be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Well, your time is up. He's
Okay.
Tappan's boss. He's the boss.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, thank you again for hanging out.
Thank you for coming. Is there letter support or anything that you need from us? Or anything?
If you're willing to, write to the Senate committee that's currently considering those, I guess it's two separate committees on those bills. If you're so inclined, that would certainly be helpful. Currently, if you're looking for further information, I've got some fact sheets and stuff I can email up as well
Yep.
on those.
That would be great.
Okay.
You have Chris or Sandy's?
Yeah, that's Andy's for sure. So
Okay. You can send that information to them.
good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for
There's
coming.
new members.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Public hearing, none. I just realized that.
Unless you want to run this.
6.2 recommendations.
Hey, council, here the delegation from the Dawson Creek.
Oh, it's too late.
Golf Club.
Oh, okay.
Second.
I was gonna grab a disc for the
All in
members, but, thank you.
Come on, guys.
Hello. So, last time we were up here was in October, so there's some new faces. My name is Daniel Martin. I'm with the Dawson Creek Disc Golf Club. I'm the president. This is Kevin, 35 years. I'm the vice president.
So, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, councilors, for having us. First things first, Bruce is a small community. Dawson's a small community in the grand scale. So I just want to start by noting the absence of Councillor Palmer and expressing our sincere condolences at her loss. Thanks for having us. As Daniel said, it's been a while now. I hope everybody's doing well. So what we've done, dovetailing with plastic, we store plastic.
Drilling rigs. There's
Yeah.
drilling rigs on my shirt here.
Yeah, there you go.
Combine them.
Drilling rigs and a disc golf basket. So, for those of you who are new to council, we were fortunate enough to be given some time to present last year. Your worship and council were generous enough to allow us to set up a temporary disc golf course in Prue Park, sorry. And it has been a success. What we wanted to do in establishing the course was give you more eyes on what we think is one of your greatest resources. To reduce the amount of litter, to reduce any chance of the repeat vandalism that the village incurred, to create a presence in a positive way and elicit some curiosity as to what we're doing and grow our sport. So, when did we have the Powder Cup?
March 3rd. It
March?
was minus 30 Celsius.
Minus 30. We, the brave denizens of the Dawson Creek Disc Golf
And Grand Prairie.
and Grand Prairie, we had
Yeah.
players come from Grand Prairie. We met, it was minus 32 when we teed off. So we were all dressed up and stuff. Other clubs across Canada and across the United States and indeed Europe have done powder cups to raise money for local food banks or other charities. So we decided, I actually looked online and I asked an online disc golf community, what's the coldest round you've ever played? Minus 32, be it Celsius or Fahrenheit, was the new bar set. So we played, it was a ton of fun, and we reciprocated the Grand Prairie members' attendance by going out to their powder cup. It had warmed up that day, so they essentially had a puddle cup.
Where did you guys have that at? In Dawson Creek?
The
We
Powder
had it
Cup
here.
was in
Yeah.
Bruce Park.
We had that here.
What we did was, the week before, I set up a counterclockwise layout that was utilizing most of the existing targets and posts. And so we were able to play 18 holes at Bruce Park, 18 unique disc golf holes at Bruce Park, and we had a tournament. And it was by donation, and so we raised about $200 for Young Life. with sports equipment for Young Life. And then we raised about $120 for the food bank. And in the last 2.5 years, we've raised about $1,500 for local food banks in Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, and now Pooskoopi. But yeah, it was, people love new things, new courses, and the Pooskoopi was a closer proximity to Grand Prairie, so they're happy to come out. And
It was fun.
yeah,
So what we did last Sunday is we had a pick up and play event where we go out into the park, and as we're playing that 18-hole layout, 9 holes one way, 9 holes back, we picked up garbage. And I'll be frank, most of the garbage was left over from the snowmobiling event. Yeah, the stakes were just littered throughout the park. That could, and I don't mean to be over dramatic. And I'm
So
not
that
trying
would
to-
be Public Works.
Yeah.
we're taking,
I,
we're taking somebody's job away.
And I'm not trying to throw the snowmobiling under the bus, but I think there wasn't much consideration in that deep snow as to what those stakes could potentially do to a child left unattended. So we gathered the stakes, we gathered the ribbon, the discarded beer cans and stuff, so the park is clean. We had a ton of fun. What we've done as a club is started thinking a little bit bigger. We want to attract the BC Provincial Disc Golf Championships, either in 2020 or 2021. Done right, we can then make a bid for the provincial championships. To do that, we're asking you to invest in us. And we believe that your investment in us will see commensurate investment by us to be the stewards of the park and have it more utilized. You have a great resource. To people outside of the village, though, the park is thought of July 1st and not often elsewhere. What we want to do is create a resource there that doesn't interfere with the park, with the gazebo, is that right?
Pavilion.
Bandstand.
Yeah, bandstand. Sorry, I'm a certain age. And become a resource that we can utilize in attracting individuals, attracting nationals, getting people to come in and spend their dollars and increase your resource base. What we're hoping is that you'll invest in permanent baskets for the course. The baskets are on the periphery of the course. We don't throw at the playground. We don't throw at the parking lot. And again, bringing people in from Grand Prairie, from Fort St. John, in conjunction with our club, gives us a greater chance of achieving our goal of hosting the national. And that money will be spent in hoops.
So how much you got?
So,
You're the number guy.
yeah, the 3 acts are basically just, we would like the course to become, permanent fixture, number 1. And then number 2, we would like just letter support so that we can start making it into, a world-class, facility. Or you could just a fun place for people to play disc golf. It doesn't have to be hosting tournaments either. And then number 3, we were asking for $10,000, and then that would enable us to.
That's yearly? Or-
No, that would be a one-time thing, and it doesn't have to be paid to the club. It could be, it could be folded. It could be through your budget folded into, Parks and Rec budget or whatever, right? So that you don't have to even pay us, but we can assist you with the purchase of equipment. The primary equipment for a disc golf course is the baskets, and we have experience purchasing baskets, and the ones that we recommend are the ones with a 20-year warranty, stainless steel, that'll last 20, 40, 50 years, right? They're stainless steel, and they're, professional disc golf association grade baskets. And then the secondary thing that makes a course, really fun to play is steady surface to throw from, right? Just like a golf course, you have tee pads on a golf course that are kind of leveled off. So most of the park in Coos Park doesn't need any landscaping pretty much for the tee pads, but we recommend artificial turf tee pads. That's what they have in the Yukon, in Whitehorse for their course, and in Finland, right? So for northern communities, artificial turf tee pads are very popular, right? And they reduce impact on your knees and your joints. And it means that you can, when it rains, you can play. When it's, yeah, and then T signs is the third thing.
Besides the third
T,
thing.
yeah,
And,
or signage, right, a map.
and I just want to assure you, your worship and council, that we're not going to be going in guns a-blazing, changing the layout of the park and making it solely disc golf course. Like I said, the baskets would be on the periphery. We're not going to come cap in hand every year saying we're not quite finished. So this is a one-time act. And the beauty of such a gorgeous park is that we can have, at the same time, both a world-class tournament facility and a local village resource that kids, teens, families, adults, old people like me can utilize. So there's no exclusivity to our game. You don't have to be great at it. You don't need special equipment. And a basket takes about, at most, 9 square feet. A tee pad is rectangular and probably extends like this. So the environmental impact on the park itself is minimal. We have
So
no
you
designs
15,
on.
but roughly 15 feet
Yes,
to the
yes.
pad. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, the standard pad is like 5 feet by 10 feet or
Yeah.
2 meters by 3 meters.
Yeah.
And like you can get by, but what we've seen is that there's more participation in the spring, in the late fall, in the winter. And like I said, we're trying to emulate the White Horse Club, and they play every year, and they even have a course on.
Oh, yeah.
They play all year throughout all year,
Yeah.
and they have artificial
Snow?
turf tee pads.
Like you guys play in the snow?
Yeah.
Does
We
Public
play in
Works
the
have
snow.
any?
Yeah,
I did not go more than 8 calendar days since we last saw each other without playing
we
around.
put little ribbons on the discs,
Yeah.
and there's even discs with Bluetooth, and you can get an app on your phone. So
So
Yeah.
you charge it through the snow?
yeah, you can track your disc with your phone in the snow.
Does it raise some questions about our group mental health? You're
dedicated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the thing is, once you have the baskets, once you have the tee pads, once you have the infrastructure in place, once you spend your $60 on 3 discs,
Yeah.
you play for free. It's fantastic exercise. We get questions every time we play around in inclement weather. What are you guys doing? You know,
Mhm.
and hey, it's free. Come out and we've moved our league night to Sundays at 2, and we will be rotating, for the short term at least, between our home course in Dawson Creek and Cruz Park as to our league days, Sundays at 2 o'clock, with the hope of attracting more children, more families.
Where's your home course in Dawson?
Yes,
Where?
Barbary and Chamberlain Parks.
Where is that?
That if you go down 50, like say you're up at Dave's No Frills and you're heading south, you go down 50 and there, 15th Street divides 2 big parks. Barbary's on the left, Chamberlain's on the right, or
Yeah.
vice versa.
It's along the Dawson Trail.
Yeah,
Right there, right.
and yeah.
Yeah, right by the 15th Street Bridge that got
Yeah.
washed out.
And,
Okay.
That cut the course in half for a year.
and it's terrific. Every time we tee off, we use the same terminology as ball golf. Every time we do that first throw for as far as we can, on hole 4, there's 2 big, beautiful American Bulldogs named Bruno and Lucius, both seniors, who come over and bark and, hi guys. And their owner has said what a wonderful addition the club is, the disc golf is, because it's reduced the amount of time he has to kind of peer over his fence and wonder what people are doing in the park. The reality of our world now is that with mental health resources not as available as they should be, with our economy, as the first presenter attested, roller coaster-ish, we do see some people who are not doing so well, camping out in parks, sleeping in parks. What we've done is we've talked to these people when need be. We suggest that maybe they seek services. access resources. I work for a company called INF, and we work with people who struggle in that regard. So we're not just stewards of the park. Hopefully, we're people who can help point the less fortunate toward more appropriate places to maybe hang their hat than the park, be it in Dawson Creek or Bruce. Go ahead.
So yeah, just to recap, so like the number two thing, so the number one thing on this is just to allow us to, make it a fixture of Poos Park, to coexist alongside other activities. And number two is to like give us a letter of support, because we don't want to put the burden on the residents of Poos Kupi solely. We're looking at grants from Shell, we're looking at grants from Lakeview, the Professional Disc Golf Association, the British Columbia Disc Sports Society. So they know that Poos Kupi supports us and maybe even contributes a little bit to the development of it. Then we'll be able to get more grants from the Professional Disc Golf Association, from Northern Health.
What about in Canada?
In Canada, they basically funded the course in Dawson Creek. So we've utilized them, and they've been great partners. And so I mean, we're definitely looking at everybody. And
Look at them again,
Yeah,
because they
well-
are doing development out here.
okay.
And I would look at them again.
And to reiterate,
TransCanada.
So they gave us Canada gave $2,000. TransCanada, yeah, we'll look at them too. So yeah, we're open to all sponsors.
We're open for business.
And that's why number one and number two are the most important asks, because with number one and number two, then like me and Kevin can start getting pavement, and we can get more, professional baskets. Because right now it's basically a temporary tone target course with like fence posts and fire extinguishers. But that doesn't mean I haven't had fun playing out there.
we purchased half fire extinguishers that we throw at them, even I can hear.
Yeah.
But to reiterate, we're doing a one-time act. We're not going to come cap in hand asking for sponsorship. The idea is to have the infrastructure in place with the baskets and the T-pads, so that we can go to companies like in Canada and say, do you want to invest in an event that's going to bring money into your community?
And like look at Dawson Creek, once we have the baskets like we did in Dawson Creek, we don't just stop there. We partnered with the Watershed Society in Dawson Creek, and we also got a Northern Health grant to plant trees in the park. So we've helped to plant over 100 trees. We brought in $5,000 in outside grants to plant trees in Chamberlain Memorial, Pioneer Park, and Dawson Creek, and Barbary Park. So it's not like we're just going to get baskets and then we're just going to like leave it. We're always going to be trying to constantly make the community a better place, not just for the disc golfers, but for just people that want to sit there and have a picnic, right?
The goal is
So
to
what
be-
about regional district? Have you guys?
Beg your pardon?
Have you hit up the regional district?
No, we have
No,
not.
the regional district is a good idea.
PRRD.
What we do, has everybody here seen the movie Shawshank Redemption? Okay, what we try and do is Andy Dufresne them to death. Write a letter, write a letter, write a letter, write a letter, and eventually we're gonna catch somebody on Friday at 4:45 who just says, the heck with it, boom, done. That's our goal. We're not gonna irritate people, pester people. We're just going to relentlessly play nice. Yeah.
Any questions?
Is 10,000 the top mountain?
So the number one thing for a course is baskets, and it's about $600 a basket. And then number two is the artificial turf tee pads. They're about $600 a tee pad as well. And then there's signage, which it can vary depending on what you want, but it's anywhere from $100 a hole, right? So a 9-hole course would be $1,000 in signage, $5,000
Do you
in
have
baskets.
baskets and everything in Dawson Creek?
Yeah, we do.
We do. Well, to be frank.
We have baskets and signage,
yeah.
but we don't have tee pads in Dawson Creek.
Yeah, to be frank, some of what we were promised in principle hasn't turned into a reality. And that's because of Dawson's particular economic situation right now that I'm sure you guys are aware of. And again, not to slam the current council, they're working within the parameters of what they have. But that has necessitated more pounding of the pavement, as Daniel has said, to finish what we started.
Any other questions? So you need a letter of support and some grant. That's what you're
Yeah,
asking.
basically, yeah, just
Yeah.
allow the course to be like a permanent fixture, and then letter of support so we can get grants. Because right now we're applying, we applied for the Northern Health Grant,
Okay.
so,
And what, sorry, one other thing, sorry, this escaped my mind, was, in making the course permanent, we're hoping it can be included in Cruise's promotional material for tourism, denoting the course.
Yeah. When you guys had your, because I didn't know you guys had the, thing down, like I knew you had the thing down there, but I didn't know that you guys had the celebration thing, right?
Yeah.
yeah, we had 2 events over the winter.
Yeah. so
Yeah.
Did you contact Sandy or anything to put it on our website to
I
promote
believe,
it?
I believe I contacted,
Alistair, I think.
I phoned Chris, I phoned the city hall, I forget who I talked to, maybe it was Alice, but I definitely phoned in and I talked to Chris, Mr. Leggett,
That'd be him right there.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't remember seeing it on the village website, so it's
Yeah,
just.
okay.
We did, I'm pretty sure I sent in some documentation, because we had a poster made for it,
We did.
and I think it was Mr. Leggett that said, or somebody from the village of Kuskokwim said, if you have a poster, email it. So I'm pretty sure I did email in a poster, because we had a poster professionally designed for the, it's called the Coos Park Powder Cup.
Well,
And then when we did the community cleanup last weekend, it was called the Coos Park Pick Up and Play. So as you can tell, I like alliterations. I did the Farmington Fairways tournament there and Battle of the Peace, so
For,
Yeah.
what was it, the Fabulous Farm?
the fabulous Farmington Fairways Frisbee
Frisbee
Fling.
Fling,
Yeah, I like alliterations.
At least he didn't use S's, thank God. Yeah. So,
Paul, any other questions, guys?
Yeah, just a comment.
if you don't have any
It's just
questions, I would
so
like to
awesome.
offer an invitation
Yeah.
for council to come out and join us.
So
It-
You
it-
guys will be pushing us along.
It's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun. It's addictive, and it's inexpensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
So anybody would be allowed to go down there and play it?
Yep.
As long as it
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah, it'd be free to play.
Mhm.
The idea with the signage is to make the course self-explanatory to anybody, be it child, teen, adult.
Yeah, with technology nowadays, we've had people that have been going from Florida to Alaska, and because of apps now on the phone, you can just, basically you have GPS in your phone, and you go, where's the nearest disc golf course? It's like bing, 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 and then it shows you where the nearest disc golf course is, and it tells you, oh, there's tee pads on this course, there's baskets at this course, okay, I'm gonna play this course. It's like, oh, there's no tee pads, or there's no baskets, I don't wanna play that course. So like we've had people from Florida, people from Calgary, like pipeliners from Quebec coming through, and
We had a gentleman from Edmonton.
so with the technology nowadays, you don't need to spend a lot of money on signage, just enough so that people can like, okay, this is hole 1, it's 100 yards, and I'm shooting that way, Yeah. So with the technology nowadays, we're really active on Facebook, and like for example, the Battle of the Peace tournament that we held, we got people all the way from Whitehorse coming down.
Yeah. it was
So
pretty cool.
they usually go to a tournament in Alaska on Labor Day weekend, but we got them to come down to the Peace region.
And one of them won it, so
Yeah.
they're coming back to defend.
And then Battle of Peace 4 is occurring in Farmington, Farmington Fairways. But like I said, we held the Coos Park Power Cup, we had the pick up and play, so
Yeah, it was fun.
we're always looking to.
So
Yeah,
you
to-
contacted our, what is his name? Sorry.
Al.
Al Cameron?
I talked to him last year. Yeah, I talked to him last year, but I haven't talked to him recently.
Well, he's our rec coordinator, so.
Okay,
So you're better to contact him
Okay.
to see.
Like you.
I think I emailed him the documents.
You did. Like council, has seen some changes, our board of directors has seen some changes. Our former vice president, he and his wife are in the process of adopting 2 beautiful daughters. So he needed some time away, and we've got a couple new people on the board, so we'll be more active and as active and explore some new avenues. Yeah. Question, Your Worship, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it
McKetty.
McKetty, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, and we're Facebook friends, so, yes, you can.
So when you get a poster, you can send it to me. So I know what's going on.
Yeah.
I would look at my phone, but I'm 99% sure I sent in a poster. Because I do like, I believe it, as you can tell, I like alliterations. I believe, attracting people through imagery is very important.
Make it memorable.
Yeah, make it memorable.
Was it
I think,
on there with the school's paint thing?
I'm sorry?
Was it a split thing on Facebook with the school's paint?
No.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, one other thing. One thing we do in Dawson Creek that we really enjoy is community outreach. When we had the multicultural festival, we were down there with a basket and
Right beside the bouncy castle.
right beside the bouncy castle, and we got tons of kids and families participating. So for Canada Day, we tell our members, we put it up on our site, hey, the park is closed from around today, but anybody who wants to come down and volunteer and teach kids and families, how to putt. We take 9 stones and we do them in an expanding circle, and kids have to nail it from the various spots. And it was a blast. It was an absolute blast. We do outreaches in school.
We did the same thing with Shell Summer in the Park.
We did a Shell Summer in the
We had
Park.
150 people come out for Shell Summer in the Park.
Yeah.
And for new players, they might not play a whole round of 9, but we just need 1 or 2 baskets. Like I said, it's called Around the 9. So it's just kind of like a spiral game where you're putting. So it can coexist alongside a lot of other activities. Like I'm from the island, and that's where I started playing disc golf. And they would have mountain bike tournaments once or twice a year, right? So obviously whenever there's a mountain bike tournament, the club just tells everybody like, okay, don't play around at disc golf today. There's a mountain bike tournament, right?
Yeah.
Or there's a volleyball tournament. So skip hole 8.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting the tapping on the water.
All right,
Okay.
we're done.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Your Worship. Thank you, council.
And we'll let you know.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Worship Councilors. Mr. Leggett.
Thanks, guys.
Sandy.
Let's give that envelope.
Oh, yeah, right. It's for
Is this check?
no, it's cash.
Okay. Thank you. And this is the money we raised at the Powder Cup. And I think if we didn't send an official notification, it was because the previous day was like -44, and there's a fine line between life affirming and life threatening. So, yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get a picture.
Get over
Okay,
there.
cool.
Ken, your turn.
Yes.
Since you now know it's your portfolio.
Well,
Yeah. Okay, let's book in. Okay.
all right.
Cool.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
thanks, Mr. Dover.
Thank
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you.
120,
And I'll
which
take
is not
some-
bad for, minus 30 weather out.
That's pretty bad.
But for, yeah. Next year it'll be 3 times bigger.
Yeah.
See you
That's why
guys.
you're the boss.
Unfinished business arising from the minutes. New business, 8.1 recommendation.
That council approved the letter for event volunteering as presented.
I'll second it, and I have a question. Where's the
Can
letter?
we have discussion?
Hey, where's the letter?
It's in the
Agenda. Where?
Page 18.
18. I have it right here. I have
Did I
the,
forget to attach the letter?
I don't have a letter. I have your village scoopy, the purpose, the background, impact on budget.
I forgot the letter. Here, quick, pass that around. It's not very long.
Read it over. Yeah, read that.
If you enjoy events and would like to make a difference in the community, the village of Poos Coopy wants to hear from you. We invite enthusiastic and passionate individuals to sign up as a volunteer. Please consider contacting the village office to add your name to our events volunteer list. Volunteering for the village means bringing your skills into our events. With your help, these events can become bigger and better than ever before. The village of Poos Coopy welcomes volunteers to help out at the following events: Canada Day Parade and festivities on July 1st, Old Fashioned Santa Claus Parade and food drive during the holiday season, and Winter Jamboree held on Saturday, March 9th this year. In addition to gaining or to building camaraderie, thank you, and community pride, these events present the opportunity to gain experience in event hosting. Your efforts will not go unnoticed, and we are happy to provide our volunteers with food and drink, souvenirs, and other token of our appreciation. If you are interested in volunteering for the village, please return this letter to the village office with your name and phone number attached. You can also email the completed form to info@pooscoopy.ca, and thank you for your support. Sincerely, Lorraine McKay, Mayor, Village of Pooscoopy.
That is from our host, BOPC, Dan Grover. Over to you.
I was thinking bedtime story.
I was thinking the same thing.
Can we get a motion on the floor to,
Make a motion
Yes.
to accept that.
There's no motion.
It's already there.
Do you-
It's already there.
All in favor?
all in favor? Okay. Good, let me do that then.
Good catch, Barb.
Sorry. Very sorry.
8.2 recommendation,
The council approved the support letter for Kitimat as presented.
can I
Yes.
get a second here?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Correspondence.
8.3.
Oh, 8.3, the Northern Health, does anybody want to go? I think we're going to that, Chris, aren't we? And.
Oh, yeah, I thought we did present it to,
Yeah, this is an
I think
invitation.
we, oh, there's our boss.
Sin.
So this is individual meetings with Northern Health. The one that you are signed up for is a one-day conference type thing with Northern Health.
We do
This
want
is
Northern
different.
Health.
This is, do you want a one-on-one meeting at NCLGA?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I need to know. Okay.
I can just see the steam coming out of my ears right now. Anyway. Correspondence, 9.1 recommendation.
Don't we just go down and say the same?
Does anybody want to talk about the RCMP report or any of them?
I'm glad that there's a letter of support from Maple Ridge to the same thing that we're having problems with assessment.
Exactly. But I think that, sorry to be, but the fire letters, I think those need to be talked about. We received 2 letters
Oh, right.
from the residents.
Late items.
They're late items. One is a family member. I am going to recuse myself from that. Recuse, whatever. I am not talking about this, but I think council needs to discuss, because I'm thinking that there's going to be more letters.
When is this going to be happening, Friday?
Chris?
It's weather permitting, it's scheduled to happen Saturday and Sunday here, sorry, 27th and 20th.
So do you wanna, who's mayor here? Ryan?
Arlene,
I am?
yeah.
No.
You want a motion on the
Yes,
floor?
Arlene is. Oh, do I want a motion on the floor?
For it to go ahead or not?
To read, is there any
Discussion,
discussion, yes?
please.
I think we should acknowledge them that we received their letter and
That first and second, or
Oh.
get them on the agenda, please.
Yes, I'll first
Okay.
make the motion.
Second. Thank you.
Ryan, do your job.
Discussion.
I think we should acknowledge the letters.
Thank them very much.
Is there any way for the fire department to explain how this is going to happen so that they can maybe give them some comms about what's going to happen? But the fact that it makes it sound like they're going to just set every last one of them on fire and let it go, which is not the way it's going to happen.
The net benefit to the village by having these houses removed And I don't believe everyone is aware of what some of the benefits are.
No kidding.
And, you know, outside of the practical experience for our local fire departments, there are benefits. And I've read this letter, and I've read both of them. And even the individual who penned this letter, and it says, we feel that the owner is, can I read, can I quote part of this letter? We feel that the owner is responsible for cleaning up the debris as soon as possible when the piles are cold. So, you know, to me, that indicates there is some willingness to have this happen, and they would like to not have any debris from the burning left where it can be blown around and create a mess and a public hazard. So to that extent, I fully support that.
Yes.
And, you know, the individuals of this community who have concerns, I think I would like to invite them to come in and speak to us and the mayor.
We won't have another meeting until,
Well, we can still disseminate information,
yes.
right? And you know what, if someone wants to express a concern, this is the place. I mean, we've preached it before. You have a concern, come to town hall, and that's what we're here for, so.
And if they do have any health issues or smoke problems, we're going to give them the time in which they can possibly go to Grand Prairie, go to Dawson and have supper. There's a lot of different options that they can do. And
The only thing I have to say is, I can say one thing on this letter. I can speak on this letter, not on this letter. The only thing is when Chris and Blair go house to house, is to make sure that those people's furnaces are shut off, so that when the furnaces kick in, the house does not suck in the smoke.
With the gas and so forth.
That is, I'm allowed to speak.
Yes, you are.
So we've got this all highlighted on here on the open burning smoke control regulations. There must be all kinds of different paints and stuff in that building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What else? How about, are they 100 meters away? Those residents?
The question, I think, and is there an exemption to allow this to happen? I would think.
And how many other municipalities have these burning,
Derelict building?
yeah, for their fire departments?
So the derelict building issue, all lot of municipalities have that. We've been told the city of Dawson Creek did one of these exercises for their fire department some time ago. So our fire chief has been in contact with the city of Dawson Creek fire chief to get some tidbits and procedural info on how to do this. Speaking to the materials in the building, we've had two separate building inspectors, the two that we've had over the last couple of months, give us opinions on it. One, being on paper in the office when the original concept came up, Andrew suggested he didn't think there was an issue with it. The second being Devin, and he's a long-time veteran of the building inspector trade. He inspected the buildings on site, so I have no concerns with anything in these buildings from this standpoint. We expect the buildings to burn rather quick. So they're old, they're almost entirely made of wood. Floors are wood, the siding's wood,
There's
everything.
probably no insulation left.
Minimal, we looked at
some of
that.
this
too.
insulation, these two.
So, and even a couple that we inspected didn't even have any flooring tiles in them, it was painted plywood that was on the floor. So we recognize there's definitely gonna be some smoke. It's impossible to conduct a fire activity without any smoke whatsoever. We expect it to be minimal. We've all agreed around the planning meetings on this, that if there's a heavy wind that day blowing towards the residents, we call it off, we move it to another weekend.
So if ash gets away and lands on something that's fairly combustible.
It's,
That's what when I was on the fire department, we put out a whole lot of houses. We put out a trailer that was this far away from the second trailer, and the second trailer never caught on fire. And these guys have got more training than what we have.
and that's specifically the type of stuff we're hoping to train our members to, you know, be able to address. So,
Burn up one building and not let it touch the second one, just for the skill.
For the
of-
experience, yes.
I don't know the exact distances of the buildings from where we're planning on, you know, planning on working, but there's at least a 15-foot buffer between the edge of the building and the street. There's the width of the street, everybody's front lawn, before the houses even happen, there's a pretty significant distance there. The flames aren't going to get very high at all. Part of the exercise is to work on a structural fire to keep the flames low, to allow it to burn slowly, calmly, and do its thing. We've got protection measures in place for the trees as much as possible. We've got an agreement with the landowner as to how and to what degree he's going to clean up the property afterwards, and that's to return it to a reasonable residential lot. You know, that concern in the letter that the time frame of June is too far. We're really only allowing them, you know, 6 weeks to do that work. We have to give them a reasonable time frame. We can't tell them, come in the day later and have all of this cleaned up. You know, so we're gonna look at some fencing and signage and stuff around the property while, you know, while that work's happening. I understand he's already got a contractor lined up to do that work, so it should happen in fairly short order. But I agree, in my opinion, you know, this is something that, you know, the community's been struggling with for years, and we are this close to achieving something that, you know, no previous council or administration has been able to do, and clean up an extremely derelict, you know, property in town to the benefit of those residents on that street. And I feel they're looking at the short-term impacts, the couple hours that this might be an inconvenience on Saturday and Sunday, without recognizing the fact that their property values are gonna go up significantly once this work's done. The crime rate in that area is gonna go down significantly. It already has.
Yes.
So it, you know, and then the crime in the communities as well could potentially go down significantly. So that, in my opinion, and you know, you guys are the ones elected to make those decisions, but I strongly feel that the net benefit to the overall community to clean up these properties far outweighs the couple of hours of inconvenience that we're gonna see for the residents on that
I
street.
agree, because I think that somebody could go in there and torture the match or something. Yes.
And that will
Better
happen
control.
if they stay there.
And they're all empty right
Yes.
now, so.
And the flip side of that as well, Counselor, if I may, if we don't undertake this activity, the structures are not a safety risk right now. They're an eyesore, they're not a safety risk. So if the village doesn't undertake this activity, we have no other avenue to force the property owner to tear them down. So that's something very important to consider. He could leave them sitting there 10, 15 years.
You would.
Can you give me a rough estimate on the cost of the training that each firefighter will learn in, like, if we had to send them out to learn this training for the firefighters, which will include Aris, Tom's Lake, what is it? The gas companies?
Harris and Tom's Lake right now, PNG Gas wants to be on scene. Dawson Creek Search and Rescue have indicated they want to be there as well. So the conversation with the fire chief around that is it's difficult to actually get this type of training because doing live fire burns doesn't happen very often. So we've got a pretty unique opportunity in front of us four times. So,
When you go for your trainings down south, they don't.
But they have little
it's mostly
buildings
on
down
paper.
south in Vancouver and that
So,
they,
yeah,
I did my live fire one, we went, mostly we just learned how to work, to use our air packs, how to be able to go through a building, a burning building, and find your way back out again.
but the cost.
so the fire chief has estimated the cost at about $1,600 per fire department member to do this, and we expect we're gonna have 20 members of the volunteer fire department on scene for this.
Oh, what a
Not
benefit.
just our own.
Not just our own, that's our folks that are gonna be on site, so to go and send them off to do similar training would be about $1,600 per person. The irony of this whole situation is for us to actually do this, the cost to the village of Pooskoopi, we estimate to be a couple of $1,000s at most. We're talking about the water that we have to pay for the city of Dawson Creek, and the fuel for the vehicles, and a small amount of materials and refilling the breathing packs and that type of thing. So the actual cost of us doing this is next to nil. The argument in some of the letters has been made that, well, it's the landowner that's benefiting from this, and maybe, you know, but at the end of the day, he's been great working with us, he's worked with us every step of along the way. So it's very much a situation where everyone wins. The community gets this cleaned up. You know, the residents on that street, despite the short-term issues, are going to have a long-term benefit to their properties. You know, and the village is gonna see something very positive done overall.
It may be a couple hours of discomfort or inconvenience to those residents on Hospital Road, but the benefits to the overall village, I think, outweighs it. At least that's for the training, the cost, and also eventually when they all get cleaned up, it's gonna benefit them too.
Ken?
Well, maybe we could sell some hot dogs and recoup that cost.
Lemonade stand?
Lemonade stand.
No, I think it was an excellent idea. The timing is very poor. I mean, we might as well talk about it. It wasn't all that long ago, there was a fire in our area. And we smoked out everything. So how are we going to prevent that again?
This is being a controlled situation.
Well, and you want to make sure the venting index is,
We're not gonna set all buildings on fire all at once.
We're definitely not gonna do that.
but no, this was excellent hearing that, you know, we're going to go along to those residents closest and recommend that they turn off their furnace so the fumes are not sucked in. Perhaps, I'm just wondering, because I do believe there is something else as a community we could do for local citizens directly affected who may have concerns. Do you have any idea what that might be?
I believe so as well, Councillor Drover, and in you know, conversations I've had with the mayor, the concept has even come up that if, you know, in our community consultation, you know, and I want to be clear, the mayor had asked us a month ago when this concept was being discussed to make sure to go out there and discuss it with these residents. That happened right off the bat. These folks are a little bit upset because they feel they weren't consulted right off the bat in the conceptual stage, but from a municipal standpoint, we can't go to somebody with a wish plan and get everybody up in arms. We wanted to wait until we knew what we were doing. And that only, the agreement, as you've seen tonight, was only signed on Monday between us and the landowners, because as of last week, we were waiting for a permit that actually turns out we didn't need. So that was the last I we had to dot. So, and part of those discussions is, yeah, if somebody says, look, I've got chronic lung problems, you know, I absolutely can't be here. In my opinion, if the village was willing to, you know, put that person up in a hotel for a night or whatever it may be. One of the couples that we spoke to, I offered them at the end of the meeting, I said, guys, if you're worried about smoke in your house, I'm gonna send Public Works over and we'll see if we can plastic up your windows and doors in any area you're concerned.
Excellent.
So we're absolutely 110% willing to work with folks on creative solutions to help this happen, because it's a benefit to them and to the community. So there's no reason to.
That's awesome.
Is council aware of the letter that we sent out today?
Yeah, I showed it to everybody.
Yes.
Are you aware of that letter?
Yeah, the letter that was going to be mailed out. You saw it last night.
Yes.
Showed it to them last night.
It was going around the table.
Oh, okay.
I missed it.
It was on there tonight. It was-
No, it's actually.
The one that just showed me?
The one that we did a mail drop, I never put it on their records.
No, I brought it in. I
Oh, yeah, well, we read, oh, yeah, okay. I read it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I read that.
That's cool.
Sorry.
I knew what you meant.
And again, if there's any concern with the weather on that particular day, we're gonna move it to another day, and we wrote that in the agreement with the, with the landowner, that weather permitting, we're gonna be doing it that day. If the wind's in the wrong direction, we simply push it off a weekend and we, maybe you push it to.
Push it to public consultation.
Oh, so we're gonna have Blair go door to door
Actually, it's.
with
Well,
Chris?
Blair and I, but we're both going Tuesday morning, so we wanted to get the notice out there. It's online, it's on Facebook right now, it's on the website, and it's in everyone's, it's going in everyone's mailbox tomorrow, because we missed the deadline today to get it in. But we wanted to let the community digest it for the weekend, and we're going door to door on Hospital Road to talk to every one of those folks Tuesday morning.
What more can we do?
That's it. Do we have to do a motion or anything?
Well, you have to decide, so
I make a motion that we approve the letter to be sent, is that what you need?
no, you said you wanted to acknowledge the letters, but there's no motion. There's been no motion for anything yet.
That's not.
You just want to accept them as info? Do you want to
Accept them
respond?
as info, and we're moving forward with the letter and door to door and
And do you
individual.
want to vote on whether or not to proceed, or?
We don't need
No.
anything, no. No, unless you guys want to just to
Yes, I think that
formalize
they
it.
should be doing that.
Yeah. So, yeah,
So you
in that
need a
case,
She had a motion, didn't you?
Yeah,
So
I just said we would accept the information and we're gonna do the letter and the door to door and proceed forward
that's fine.
as planned.
Okay.
So now they gotta vote.
All in favor?
No. No.
Are you done?
Mark that in minutes. No. I want a divorce.
Doesn't count. I know what she's doing. She wants it noted that she voted against.
You abstained from it.
Oh, I don't care. I don't want it.
No. I was gonna ask Lisa.
If she abstains from voting, according to Robert's Rules of Order, that goes to the affirmative.
Yes,
Correct.
that's why she said no.
Sorry. We have resolutions, none, bylaws, none. And Chris, before your administration report, Lisa, what can we do for you?
Okay, my name is Lisa Bachman, for those of you that don't know me. I am one of the residents of Poostupi that got hit not once, but twice in 9 days in my post office box. And I'm just wondering what mayor and or council is doing to prevent this from happening again. Do we have any security with the post office? Should we move our boxes? What?
There is security at the post office. There is locks on the door. It's Canada Post that unlocks the front door. So when they go to work in the morning, they hit the unlock button. Example is, we were in there the first break-in. The cop came, he gave me the file, his card with a file number on it. I asked Carol's son, Derek, to take a picture of it because I had to give it to Chris or Blair. He went out of his truck. Carol was on the phone to the headmistress or headmaster, or whatever he's called. And Derek went outside the door, out to his truck to get his phone, and then come back, the door was locked. So it's them that is leaving the door unlocked. It's not us. We have asked them to keep it locked, only when Carol is there.
Yeah.
So
So
Canada
it's
Post
basically
refuses to put
Canada
cameras
Post.
in there. Yes, it's Canada Post. Canada Post refuses to have cameras in there. There's not much we can do besides put cameras up. But then again, they wear black hats, heads covered. You can't tell who they are.
Yeah.
So do we want the taxpayers to pay $11,000 to $17,000 for cameras to secure the post office of a picture that we may never be able to see the guy or catch the guy? Yes, we are looking at cameras. We are looking at cameras. But right now, it's Canada Post that we're fighting on.
So they basically just said, we're on our own, more or less.
Chris, do you want to?
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. So, Lisa, if I can speak to you directly. Canada Post's position through the postmaster here is that it's not in their financial purview to install cameras inside. They're concerned about privacy because then
Oh, I understand that.
it
yeah.
captures people
Yeah.
unlocking the boxes. But also they've said in the locations that do have the cameras, all that's happening is the cameras are being spray painted or BB gunned before they get it. So every time these post office boxes get broken into, then they have to also repair and replace a whole bunch of security cameras. I think, and this is my opinion, this isn't from Canada Post, but the cost benefit ratio there, I don't believe is there from the accounting department at Canada Post, because their losses are actually minimal. I mean, it's, I understand where you're coming from, you've had your personal property stolen, but from Canada Post standpoint, unlike an ATV dealership or a gun store or something like that, where when somebody breaks in, there's thousands of dollars of merchandise walking in the door. In this case, it's mail. There's actually no value to it. So
Yes, there is value to it, because if they get a hold of my bank account statements,
Yep.
I'm
So-
SOL.
No, and I don't mean it in that context. I mean, if I asked you today what was the value of the mail that was stolen, there isn't. So from Canada Post standpoint, there's no tangible loss, there's no measurable loss for them actually to, and that's
To
just
them,
to them.
not to the
Not
client.
not to somebody. I mean, I can imagine if I had my mail stolen too, it would be
Well,
the
Chris,
same thing, right?
But we're not the only ones.
Nope.
Who else?
No, there's been, so Dawson Creek's been hit twice, Fort St. John's been hit, Taylor, Hythe, Spirit River,
Gordondale.
yeah, Cloverdale, so they're.
Gordondale.
Gordondale, so.
Groundbirch.
Groundbirch, everywhere, this seems
The
to be
Roadhouse.
a ring that's kind of going around and stealing this mail. And from my conversations with Canada Post, it's kind of business as usual, they put new boxes in and carry on, so. And to our standpoint too, when I had those conversations, it was, well, we can't put cameras on the inside either, because the village has no legal jurisdiction.
But what
inside
about
there.
like maybe cameras somewhere in the village?
So we are.
We are planning,
we're-
we are getting quotes, we got one quote, but we need to have 3 quotes before we can actually make a decision.
Yeah. And what about, I've heard that you're thinking about bringing police presence in?
Yes, and we're waiting for the business case to be done, and he will be located in the Fairmont.
So he will be doing like a regular round of poos, or just?
He'll be doing regular rounds of Poos, but he'll also be doing the rural area, because he will be a rural police officer. And that's what we are, we're under the rural policing.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll know by June. The staff sergeant of Dawson Creek is doing a business case for us right now,
Okay.
so we'll know by June.
And ultimately, it's, if the residents of the community witness something strange going on at night, we're a small community. We have to help each other.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's just why I'm surprised, like, nobody's seen anything. Nobody's seen anything. And all these break-ins that are happening all over the
Sunday
place,
afternoon,
nobody sees anything.
It was Sunday afternoon, and Alfie and Warren were out joyriding, and I said, check the mail. I was shocked that it was open.
I didn't know it was even open. I assumed that
We didn't
Saturday and Sunday, totally it was closed.
I assume
I
it's
didn't
closed
know.
as soon as Carol leaves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, no, it's 77. So, Alfie goes in there to get some mail and he says, phones me and says, you better get your butt up here. So I go up there and I called the police, called Blair. Chris was on his way driving to his home, so he couldn't answer. And then he did eventually call me back, but then we started finger picking the mailboxes. Because it looked like, oh, well, they only vandalized 3 on the bottom. And no, there was quite a few.
Yeah.
Well, I sent Rob the pictures. And they were in the newspaper. And that was the first hits.
It is a federal crime to tamper with the mail, but
Oh, yeah.
you gotta catch
But
them.
that's-
They caught a guy in Taylor. And I've been watching the court report and I haven't seen, so I don't know if the guy's in jail.
So
or-
is Canada Post still holding the mail they got from that guy?
the police, when I talked to the RCMP, they said they would take a picture of it and most likely send it back to the plant to be redistributed. Because there was quite a bit of mail that one individual had.
Yeah.
But the Dawson Creek RCMP they didn't know what mail the guy had. It would be the Taylor RCMP that would have to be contacted. Okay? And I would phone the plant to see if your mail came back.
Yeah.
But you're not alone with that, with your
Oh, I know.
concern.
Like, I'm surprised nobody else is here that got hit. Like,
No, they just get on Facebook. They don't actually confront the mayor, they just get on Facebook. But thank you for coming.
Okay.
And hopefully we've kind of settled some of your angst.
Well, like I said, my Tourette's is done now, so I'm good with that.
You should have seen me when I was up there. It's
Yeah.
not a happy camp.
No, I would still just like to catch the person.
It's
Rather than
frustrating.
myself. Because like I said, I don't know, like, now we're guessing, like, what bills and/or
Yeah, what's
what
due?
mail did he take? Like, we don't know, because I said I got my mail Wednesday or Thursday before the first hit, and Carol said there was mail in there Friday, but she doesn't remember what mail was in there.
Well, I can
Because
tell you,
I understand.
Shaw, P&G, those are the bills that were in mine.
Yeah, so, I don't know, but I just,
Yeah. The water bill was in there.
so, okay,
Okay,
thank you.
but if you have any more concerns, give me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm just getting Carol to hold my mail for a while because
Yeah, until you're
Yes.
comfortable enough to have it put back.
it's not just me, it's our farm, it's all my
Family.
kids, right? So now we all have to go and phone our banks and say, change my accounts, change my cards. It's just,
Did you see the one lady on the post there? They manipulated a check of
no,
hers. She sent to another company, like she paid a bill,
yeah,
and they manipulated the check. So the bank actually called her and said, what's going on here? And she said, no, cancel it.
yeah, because I was at least smart and phoned my bank the first time it happened. So they put a red flag on it, they said they would leave it on there for a while. And so then I had to phone them again the other day and say, hey, we got hit again. So now we have to go through the process of changing all our bank
Canceling
accounts, canceling cards, letting everybody that we deal with know.
Yeah, do an Equifax
So, yeah,
to make
So-
sure, to
yeah,
make sure that they don't. Like, prime example, my father-in-law got hit $75,000. The guy somehow got my father-in-law's ID, copied his driver's license, put his picture on it. And by the looks of the guy in that picture, he did not have $75,000 in his bank account. He had one eye going this way, one eye going that way, and he looked like a crackhead. But the bank issued, down in Ontario, he went in there with that ID and issued a debit card. And the first bank wouldn't allow it, but after that, 5 banks did.
yeah. Yeah, I know, that's the scary part, right? Like, we don't know.
So just keep watching your Equifax.
Yeah.
Watch it, check it every few months. talk to your bank. Make sure your bank is well aware.
Yeah.
Because it goes across the province, it goes across Canada. The guy had the audacity to go back in when he figured Dad got his money back. Went in there and said, my debit card's not working. And then they saw the red flag on there.
Yeah. Too little, too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only reason they knew that there's something was wrong at the last bank was he said he was down for his son's wedding. And Hannah at the Scotiabank saw me standing in the lineup and knew that Vic only had one son. So she instantly phoned my mother-in-law. But that was the only way we would have known, or he would have got more money out.
Yeah.
Hannah needs a raise.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah. Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay, administration reports, CAO report.
My turn. Gonna kick things off with the spring fling on May 11th. This council still resolved to host that event, and by hosting it, I mean, last time we heard, you guys were doing the
You'll do the cooking.
I'll hand out the funds. I don't,
Yeah, we can do the cooking.
Okay.
so the fire, the
Did you want me to
fire hall have a
buy all the
barbecue?
stuff too, or what?
No, we'll run that through the village, but it came up
Okay.
in our staff meeting today because the deadline's getting close and we usually like to plan for that
I
kind of
thought
stuff
about
a couple of
when
weeks,
they
so we-
said that had those guys, they said they could do a thing for the kids to do something with the discs.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, sugar, after they left, they could have come to the spring fling.
But we can get it on contract and stuff.
Yeah.
So even on that front, talking about the cooking and stuff, we've got kind of a weird scenario going on too, where the museum wants to cook hot dogs now and sell them for museum fundraising, and we're coming in right after offering the same thing for free.
Well, then I think we gotta bow off and not sell hot.
think so.
Yeah. And the bouncy castle. and that.
Yeah, we'll have the bouncy castle and maybe get the disc guys here. Why don't we just do a band?
Can we give out some swag?
Can we get a band?
Probably not this late into it.
Can we get
Voted
some-
down when we voted it.
Oh.
They said no ban, they
Right.
said no ban.
Yeah.
And then
You
we're
were-
revisiting it because we're not cooking hot dogs.
Well, the original, sorry, it's my last.
Go ahead, Cindy.
The original plan was to have hamburgers and hot dogs from the village. And then it was brought to our attention that they are doing the hot dogs. We can still do our hamburgers. One of the suggestions that came up at the staff meeting today was we would have a donation tin and all the donations we would give to the museum
Oh, that's an idea.
if we still wanted to do it.
I don't really want to do it because I just got back from NCLGA. I would
And that's
have
also-
just coming back from there.
Also, if we're doing the hamburgers at the same time that they're doing the hot dogs,
And they're trying to
and
sell.
ours are free and theirs are not,
Yeah.
they're
It
gonna
makes
come
it-
to
Or
us.
donation.
It makes-
So right now then, we would just have the bouncy castle
Yeah.
And
and
swag,
bouncy castle.
And swag.
and swag.
What's swag?
The
Which
three,
would be
the three
stuff.
little doodads we give away at those events, the, whatever they happen to be.
You know, keychains
PJs,
and.
Junk.
stress balls, or, yeah.
We give away lots of stress balls, we still have lots of those, we still
Chinese
have water
mass production
bottles.
merchandise.
I can round up a bunch of stuff. No big deal. I
Okay.
don't have time to order anything new.
No, it's okay,
No,
but
but I
yeah,
can
but
get-
you had the jamboree was good.
Well, see what we've got left.
Yeah, we still got some of that candy, I think, and we'll find.
Candy,
We'll
no
find some.
candy left.
No?
You probably ate it all first.
Well, I dumped the last one in the hole up front.
So I've eaten most of it.
We were instructed to take the Mary Jane ones out. There's candies, it says Mary Jane on it.
Mary Jane, yeah, and then the slogan was something that was,
Trina pointed out, she says, do you guys realize you're handing out a candy that says Mary Jane on it?
Well, that's.
It's a caramel or something, but it's called Mary Jane.
Oh my god.
supported Weed Mart already.
Okay, so no cooking then.
Okay, so that's it on the spring fling. Moving on, the sewer flow meter tender is out. That's online in multiple places right now, and It's gonna be out for 2 weeks. Just to let council know, because that is a formal tender now, we will have to be going with the lowest price bidders. We should know pretty soon. I attended a Caribou meeting on Monday at the PRRD that was there with the premier, and I'm sure Mayor McKinney, Councilor Smith will speak to this too. So I'll let them, well actually no, the end of it was that we got 4 weeks of extra consultation. Speaking personally, I'm not sure how we can do an economic impact assessment study for the entire Peace region in 4 weeks. But at least it's something.
No rush, eh?
At least it's something, I suppose. Yeah. Met with our appraiser from the Aspen Grove. There will be a full report coming out to council for the May 1st meeting. But just to give you guys the good news, the properties have been evaluated at 231 and 180 respectively. So a combined total of about 411,000.
But we could sell them separate.
Oh yeah. The appraisals were separate as well.
So do you need a motion?
Not right now, Your Worship. I'm going to bring back a full report so you guys will have those appraisals in their entirety, and then the recommendation will be to have you guys direct us to get a real estate agent and promote for sale.
Nothing will be redacted. The full report, nothing will be redacted.
Wow. Okay.
I did just not catch on.
I sent an email to Mike Reedman regarding the library agreement there at your request. Mike replied, says he's going to get rolling on it. There has been an email chain going back and forth. Him and Jennifer, the library board, are chatting as we speak. Yeah. Sent an email to Jennifer Sutherland about the community cleanup. She got back to me today, as a matter of fact. Said that it'll be the same as last year, and she's going to get me info by Tuesday or Wednesday next week in time for us to put it in the newsletter.
Can I stop you there?
Yep.
On Earth Day, one of our little residents, Natalie Webb, will be going out and same as she did last year.
Okay.
So she came over and told me that.
Yeah. Recognize her in the
Oh, yes,
newsletter.
we will recognize her.
Okay, the Hillcrest file we just sort of talked about, so I'll skip over that. I put a call into Jocelyn Young, she's our CN contact about the rail yard, to ask her about the long grass and stuff there and what their plans are for maintenance, and then also the potential for it to be sold. I left her a pretty long-winded voicemail message, she hasn't had a chance to get back to me yet.
You should maybe email her. She answers emails.
Does she? Okay. I'm on the phone today. I prefer to just chat, but I'll send her.
No, we never would have got that one.
Try having a meeting with them during the day.
Right? Yeah. Staff meeting. Good time. Skate park, we're just waiting for one more final quote, and I do apologize. That's been dragging on a little bit. I spoke to Josh yesterday and said I wanted that quote by Thursday or that contract. So, and then the survey for the sidewalk study, Josh got back to us with the cost. It's about $2,100 to have 50th fully surveyed from Cookies all the way down to the elementary school, to see if the sidewalk fits and what we're gonna have to do there. So I told him, yeah, go ahead, we'll get that done. We can't take a decision on that project without it. Loader's been returned to John Deere, canceled the insurance, and I sent an email out to the sales guy, just refreshing his memory on his commitment to look at the cost if we didn't use a lot of hours. He wrote me back and said he'd have a chat with his sales manager. Renewed the village's property insurance for 2019, a total of $24,000. And then on the camera front, following last night's resolution, we hit a snag. The John Deere security cameras are currently extremely popular. We were able to find 2 on eBay. In the States. Canada, totally sold out. John Deere here doesn't sell them. Amazon just lists them as sold out. We will notify you when they're back. So we're looking at other options, but we've actually discovered that these things are weather rated. So we thought we found a great unit for about $700 with 6 cameras and a doohickey that does the recording. And we went down on the specs and it said it was good from -4 to 100 degrees Celsius. We thought, probably not Florida. Right? So we learned something about security cameras. The issue is now, knowing that, we're gonna have to make sure to buy something that meets the weather spec for up here, so we're shopping. Yeah. Met with members of the museum board along with our building inspector, and that was last week, and that was following the stuff, you know, the pictures that you
Yeah.
guys had, so. I'm gonna say this politically correctly, the safety issue fish at the museum was a lot bigger on paper than when it was pulled out of the lake.
No.
So did Public Works go over there and take down that?
They're starting tomorrow, we needed material to do it, so, long story short,
Can you
with that.
coordinate with the electrician? Because he's gotta change the lights. So when you guys take that down,
Nobody mentioned the lights to us on that.
The lights
why
were
are we putting
The lights-
LED lights up there?
Yeah, the lights are already, I mean.
They're done?
No.
The only place they're not done is on the
On the
soffit in
soffit,
here.
yeah.
No, well, maybe it was this building. I
Yeah,
don't know.
This building
I
is
thought it was
not
this
done.
one.
No.
So are we having Public Works take down the soffit here?
The conversation with the lights here is that instead of changing the whole ballast and all the work on that, we're gonna put LED light bulbs in instead. It's faster,
And
it's
the
way
electrician actually said that was okay.
cheaper. We
You don't have a fire?
We just discussed that with the staff meeting today. I've actually got those LED bulbs in my house. I use those in my garage. because
Yeah, I
they're
think you better
plastic
talk to the
light
electrician.
bulbs. Okay.
What about the museum?
So museum, long story short, nothing over there that the building inspector observed from a safety standpoint was bad to the point where the facility couldn't be opened on time. It's a couple of loose boards and stuff. Their big safety concern was the entrance area of the building, which is sagging and settling. And it's, once they pointed it out, it's actually pretty visible. So the roof line goes down a bit. I've got an engineer coming on Tuesday afternoon to take a look at it. He's worked on the building before, and they wanted to dig their file up. Devin was upfront with us when we were talking about that project. He says, you're gonna spend $100,000 to jack this thing up 4 inches and make it a hole, and that's about it. A couple of the members of the museum said, look, it's gonna fall on somebody's head. And the building inspector, in my opinion, quite rightly pointed out, well, that's a 6-inch or 8-inch beam right there, this thing's not falling on anyone's head. So he suggested maybe if the cost is prohibitive to level it out, that we put a post there just to support it and stuff. But the big news there is, despite some of the comments, there's nothing from a safety standpoint that's gonna cause it to not happen, so.
Ken?
The building inspector inspected the integrity of the building. And did the inspector not see any holes in any walls?
Holes, how,
Perhaps from heating.
The
You
furnace
go
that
from-
last tore out.
Yeah.
no, and his eye wasn't on that. It
No,
was on-
It was on the main building.
So if you got a kid or an adult walking by, their arm goes into an open hole, they fall, there's potential for a serious injury, right? That wasn't even considered. You have these little strips on the floor that transition from room to room. That's a tripping hazard, right? I mean, all it takes is for someone to trip on something like that and hit their head, and then we're in trouble, right? The building inspector inspected the integrity of the building.
Mhm.
He did not do a safety inspection.
No, he inspected the items that the museum delegation that was there asked him to inspect and pointed out directly.
So, you know, I
They didn't even
agree.
know about the hole. They didn't
Sorry,
even point out the hole.
they didn't even
No,
point it out.
never came up.
But it's, who's been doing all the work on the electricity there? Who's been doing all the renovating there?
The museum,
Yes.
the museum, and it's our building.
And do you know that every single light socket and every single electrical socket has been hooked up to code?
That's why I just said, just electrician.
So, you know, I understand what you're saying, but we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
And, you know,
Thank you.
Sorry.
It is a public building, as I've been saying, and it's up to us to maintain it and make sure that it is meeting safety standards. Yes?
So then, to that end, council, what you should direct us to do is to have a safety audit conducted by somebody who does municipal building safety audits brought into, and give us a full report on that facility.
So
I
can I
don't
have a
know.
motion on the floor to do that?
We'll make a motion
To do what?
to have somebody come in and do a safety inspection on the place.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Do you think it would pass?
Well, that's that road we need to pass.
this is a knee-jerk reaction.
That is right.
You need an electrician to come by and inspect the electricity.
Can I get a seconder?
Just ask for that.
Well, no one's done it yet.
Uh-huh.
I'll second it so we can hop into discussion.
Okay.
But we need an electrician, we need a carpenter. I mean, hey, it's our building. I agree, there's a lot of stuff there that looks bad, right? But it's not necessarily a safety hazard. And I don't disagree with that. But I do believe that there is someone who can do an inspection of that building in fact,
An actual
I might be
carpenter.
able to assist the village
An actual carpenter.
in doing a safety inspection.
If you're considering the potential for liability issues, Councilor Grover, I would strongly recommend against a councilor going in there and providing.
And doing the safety.
All right, I'll get my wife to do it under my nose.
That's like, you actually need a red seal carpenter to go in and do a safety.
Your worship, I'm not sure if Red Seal Carpenter is versed
Electrician.
in
We'll start with the electrician.
disability access and then safety, municipal safety compliance. I know there's somebody out there with some type of credential that inspects this kind of stuff. I started tracking down a Red Seal Carpenter that does house framing in residential areas.
No,
Is it-
commercial.
Might I suggest that our motion be that we explore our options and bring it back to the next meeting for us to discuss?
We have May 11th.
What's happening with
They're
The
opening.
opening.
Well,
They're actually open the 1st of May.
Yeah.
And
let's have a meeting
so can we not just put a motion on the floor to have a little electrician come out and have a boo at all the electric?
I like it, sure.
Okay, so I can't say the motion.
Okay. We have one motion on the floor right now,
We'll cancel
Do
that
the
motion.
safety.
to have someone do a safety audit on the building inside.
Okay, then I'll change it.
I'd like to edit
I'll
that
change it
motion.
Well, okay.
I can change it to the motion. Change it to come, have an electrician come and check the electrical.
Or whatever is required. Chris?
I'm confused, your worship, the comments from Councilor Drover were over tripping hazards, holes, and things in walls. An electrical contractor is not going to identify
said
a tripping
electrical.
hazard.
Well, that's one of the issues for sure. But mind you, that's a heritage house. The electrical in there isn't going to be up to the standard of today.
No.
So what do you guys
What
want
motion
to
do
do?
you guys want
It's
me to
10 to 9. It's 10 to 9. Let's get with the program here.
What motion would you like me to make?
I think
we
what
have
Chris said.
to decide whether we want to.
Be sued because someone falls through a hole or sued because somebody, a little old lady trips on a tripping hazard. I don't know.
In that
Can you
case,
give me
your
one, Julie, right,
worship,
please?
we call the municipal insurance association and we say negotiate settlement with this person. That's what we pay for the insurance for.
Do what?
If somebody decides to sue.
Do we want to tell the museum they can't open up in them?
Oh, no, that isn't it. Do we need to upgrade in that building? Like,
Well, we need to do something.
Can we stuff a piece of plywood over it for now?
I mean, there's a very good chance that if we hire somebody with full safety credentials to come and look at this, they tell us the walkway isn't up to code, the spacing on the railing isn't right, we're tearing the railing off. The stairs are too narrow.
There's
The-
a lot of stuff not to code. in
We
that
do a
building.
safety audit because there's a strip connecting two pieces of plywood, we could be tearing the walls and every inch of wiring out of this thing next year.
Yeah.
We don't know. There's, I know in liability, when we're talking from a legal standpoint, when somebody walks into a heritage building like that, they can clearly see it's a heritage building. So the person is making a self-determined conscious choice to walk in there. The floor
So
is
should
a
we put a sign
heritage.
that says, enter at your own risk?
Make a motion, we're going past 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Oh,
BC,
Can I get a second?
contact someone from the BC Construction Safety
Yeah,
Association.
that might be where we, a good place to start. Okay.
But let's do as much as we can with the time that we have to limit our liability.
So that's the vote, that's the motion that's gonna be on now. Is to get in touch with the BC.
Construction Safety Authority is a, that's
And have them
just.
come
So
down.
that's the motion now, not the other two?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Scratch those other two, Sandy.
I'm frustrated
You think you're frustrated?
about this
Or is
museum
it-
thing.
what?
Well, do we have a lack of communication here? They were here at the last, like, 2 meetings ago. First of all, it was, you know what I mean, looking at repairs, and now we're looking at safety. Is there communication that we're not hearing what they have to say, or I don't know.
The thing is that the Museum Society they're responsible for what's inside that museum, right? And I think that the village is responsible for that building. So Les was deciding what needed to be done as curator and how he was going to go about fixing all of these things and what we were going to do about those boards falling down. And I said that building belongs to the village of Puscoopi, and Puscoopi needs to be maintaining that building. And I know that we haven't put an awful lot of focus on it, but it does need an awful lot of work. And it is going to require a lot of money because it's been ignored for so long. There's grates up there that are rusting and on rotten window frames. We should be concerned if those fall down. There's an awful lot of things that need to be done. So that's where it came into just being kind of wishy-washy, because I know that they want to go ahead. Unless he's the kind of guy that wants to put it around and make sure that things get done. Fabulous, and he can, if he wants to, go ahead and do what he does. But the village is responsible for maintaining that building.
And we
And
should
we need
check.
to.
And when did it get not the village's responsibility? That's what I don't
I
understand.
have no idea what happened.
So what have we done for the museum since we first started talking about it?
we've gone over there and investigated their concerns, and we've come up with an action plan to fix those specific concerns. I mean, I look at that facility like, you know, the community pays $50,000 a year to have those folks manage that facility.
But not repair it, not maintain
No,
it.
not repair it, but if they're not bringing it to our attention, then you know, and that did come through, got through, but we acted on it within 2 weeks.
Yes,
So, you know,
So that all that's been fixed, the eavesdrops?
it's happening tomorrow. We needed material, and Bud estimated about 150 screws to get up there and do it, but he's been in the midst of street sweeping and doing meter reads and stuff right now, so he's you know, there's other stuff to do. But that work's happening tomorrow, from what I understand.
and there was nothing rotten underneath there?
Oh, there's a few rotten boards for sure, but it comes back to what we've been saying a moment ago. You know, if we start tearing them off, and when we looked at it with the building inspector, that is original tongue and groove soffit under there. So if we tear that off, we can't replace that, so we're gonna do our best to secure them and anchor them back, and at some point, we're gonna have to look at replacing that. To your point, it's an old building. You know, I know looking at the museum repair GL, we've had $3,000 a year allocated for repairs on that building. And last year, I think the number was $1,300 that we spent on it.
There's an opportunity for improvement.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's do what we can in time for the grand opening, and then when it shuts down, let's
Yeah.
give it a second look.
But
Is that a good motion?
I think we have to have the museum board regularly come to the council and say, guys, we're gonna need this in a couple of years, we're gonna need that. And to your point, it's been the curator the last couple of years who's just been kind of fixing it and.
Not telling anybody over the door.
But
Well, I
thank
mean,
you,
I'm sure
Les,
that
we
we get
appreciate
in
what
there,
you've
you
done,
know,
we do.
I would do it. Oh, it only needs a little bit of paint, we'll just do this. I mean, it's our age group too, that we just take things on.
And it's nice
Right.
to put work into a building like that, you know, and make it your own a little bit. But, you know, to your guys' point, yeah, it's a municipal facility and, you know, I know with a heritage building like that, there's no expectation that it have the same standards as a newer building like this. There's a lot of exemptions in that code kind of stuff for old buildings, but what those are exactly, I don't know.
Well, Devin would have said what they were.
But again, to his defense, I guess if that's the right word, you know, I invited him in to do this inspection and I said.
On there, what
"Look
they
at,
wanted."
You know, here's the board members, guys, what do you want him to look at? And give you, well, here, this, these couple of beams, this sagging roof, okay, yep. Chris, get an engineer, come in and look at this, have your public works mill this back up, we're done. So it was an hour meeting and he went back on about his day. You know, that wasn't a meeting or a request to come in and audit
The whole
everything.
Did you go in and actually see that little?
Yeah. I was there. The document,
Well,
right?
because it's
So,
an older
or
building,
slow
you
pipe.
have to expect that when you go into it, that you're going to run into older problems, right? When
And it's still
you would
there.
have those boards, the flooring and.
Okay.
I grew up in a 150-year-old limestone foundation farmhouse in eastern Ontario. There wasn't a straight square door frame anywhere in it, but it was fine. It was beautiful.
If there's a term,
You can imagine what I lived in there.
Right. Simple perk.
Call to order and, hey, Chris, get back to your.
Yeah, okay, thanks for, there's just a couple more quick ones here. Dawson Creek Art Gallery has done one of their art seminars on April the 5th. Sounds like it went pretty well because they're doing another one on the 26th and they're already looking at May as well. So that's happening as planned. I got a call from a resident concerned with speeds on 57th. She's looking at maybe some speed bumps there, but I asked her to go and get a letter of support from a couple of her neighbors to bring back to council. So, and then last,
Scenario again. It's coming. It's coming.
we're into speed bumps. Alistair put 3 more updates on the website, so we now have a full section on freedom of information, how to obtain and business license section, and then a festival section on there. And
How do we put something on, get your yards cleaned up? Get your crap out of your yards, get your dead cars with the smashed up windshields out of your yards. Where can we put that?
Spring cleanup.
How do we get that bylaw up so people will actually get at it? Or do we start finding people?
we can definitely actively promote those sections of the property maintenance bylaw on the website and newsletter.
Because there's a few houses that I would love to hit.
There was,
Last year, we issued that letter, remember, saying we were targeting.
We were focused
So
on
I just took it down from the post office because it's a year old. So
Okay.
maybe we need to reissue that letter, reiterate that,
Yeah.
hey, we're on it again, the bylaw officer's gonna be coming around, it's gonna start looking at the properties. Last year when we did this, people started cleaning up.
Do we do a cleanup campaign? Because before we used to have a day where they could put out all the stuff that they really, really wanted to get rid of, and Public Works went around and picked it all and took it to the dump. And then the next day, they put out their mattresses or whatever. There was 2 days and it was specific stuff each day. 'Cause I can remember Herman Folster coming in and getting me complete. Because they didn't pick up this mattress.
Well, we usually do the seniors.
So the cleanup that we
We
do
haven't-
right now is just for yard debris for seniors. We don't do any more.
We haven't done that.
People's, no.
No, because there's a few houses here, it would bankrupt the village.
Oh, yeah, we run into thousands of dollars of tipping fees, and you go to the PRD landfills now, and it's like,
I know, I have to take my garbage.
you know, pick up a truck, this is $20, so. And then last but not least,
Marlene has a question here.
oh, sorry, yeah.
Are you aware of the rows of the turf that's put on the neighbor's, yard? Yeah.
Did we charge her
From
for that?
snow removal. And the ditching that was done by accident and ended up on his, where he has to
No.
mow the lawn.
And the
Yeah,
gravel
it's-
on some of the people's lawns.
Yeah.
When we get our summer students, one of the first things they do is go out with the motorized gravel sweeper thingy, and anybody that wants
This
to.
will not remove
So this is
this. It
actual
needs
sod.
a truck
So,
and equipment.
Okay. Do you know the address?
I'm right across the street from you.
Okay.
And there were holes that were dug out, like, oh, wow, that must have been fun. But they need to be filled in again and so
This
that.
way, this way, or this way.
Oh, the ditch, well, they went in with the equipment, went into the ditch, just dig up the snow and went down into the soil like that. It was frozen, it must have been terrible.
Oh, that would've been
And dumped
right.
it on the boulevard.
Right.
But it's all.
Look, she's using her phone. Oh, it's a book. She used it last night to get pictures.
It's quite a mess, but it'll be quite heavy, so.
We'll go take a look. And then just to end on a good note, I want to thank NDIT for approving us for $50,000 for the skate park for this year.
Ooh, we still got paper. Okay, action items, anybody see anything?
Nothing comes to mind.
So recoding the chartered accounts, who's doing that, Chris?
That project's been assigned to Trina and Skylar. Trina was the obvious choice.
So they are in the midst of it, or are they started it,
No.
finished it, or?
Hasn't started yet. Trina's just coming off over with the audit and stuff, so.
Capital special projects, anybody see anything? Actually, well, we got this capital special project thing happening, what do you guys think about the disc?
I'm excited, it's a very
I am
positive
too.
thing. And our
Yeah.
park should be used.
Yeah.
Do you wanna donate the $10,000 to them?
Well, I don't think they.
That's what I
were
was saying, how
asking for
much is
full
our
10,000.
recreation, how much is our money that we've allotted for recreation?
How much we got
That's
left?
what I was
numbers I
asking
see
you
in
earlier.
There's a couple of different lines for
Recreation.
recreation. Most of it is for the recreation coordinators' wages, but I
Can
think
we take $2,500 from him and $2,500 from somewhere else?
absolutely, Your Worship. The one thing I'd caution council though with that is their request was to make the current course permanent. We don't have a solid game plan for how Poos Park is gonna look.
But they're doing the exterior.
They're doing it in the exterior of the park,
Yeah.
around the exterior, so it's
Right
like,
where we were
shouldn't,
planning on putting our walking trail.
we'll still have a walking trail.
And that's what I mean, the units they're talking about putting in are permanent. So for example, when we did the snowmobile race this year, all the ones they had there were temporary, so they just picked them up and moved them for us. So we've got to be absolutely certain that if we're given an organization written permission to be permanent in the park, that the locations of those things work for us. We don't know that yet.
Do they have insurances for their events?
Liability insurance?
I don't know.
They must.
They must.
Yeah.
Well, we're assuming.
We're
So,
assuming-
When you, when we decide that we're gonna give them some money now tonight, in the letter to tell them that, yes, we're gonna give them the money, you will ask them if they have liability insurance to be down in our park.
I'm not in favor of giving them money. I'm not. I mean, here we are scrimping about a $2 a month raise on property tax to raise so many thousands of dollars, and then we're gonna give half of it away for the first presentation that comes in through the door. Sorry, not there.
But it's a recreational event for people to be able to go down and do.
You
We
know
don't
what?
have much for recreation.
They were using sawed-off fire extinguishers in Dawson Creek. If it's good enough for Dawson Creek, it's good enough for Bruce Creek. Why do we have to give them the world-class event to hold international events at our expense? There are options. Sorry, but I'm just one vote.
They said that brings people to town. I don't know, they have held 2 powder puff things or whatever they're called. I don't know. I think it's something that we need to have down at the park. They do clean up the park. Obviously, because the snowmobilers were pigs, I guess.
I can talk to that if you want. Let's just say it wasn't exactly as they have been presented.
I know, even if we don't promise them any money, a letter of support for their tournament. And maybe we could assist them in getting some corporate sponsorship with our support and endorsement. Maybe we could get Shell
Grant writer.
or some of these other,
Maybe we could use our grant writer instead of handing them over money.
Absolutely.
Actually-
Letter of support and then access to the grant writer for anything they might want to do. That would probably be worth its weight in gold. to that.
Yeah, sure.
and would work with you for, before they permanently put in.
Well, that's gotta
We need
be,
to know, we need to know the diagram.
so we're already talking about putting $125,000 of park infrastructure down into Coos Park next year. We haven't even had a single meeting on where that's supposed to go yet. I think it would be extremely premature to tell these guys, yeah, sure, just go ahead and, nail the stuff to the ground wherever you want it. We'll work around you. It's our park. That should go the other way. And then,
So you can write a letter stating that we will help them with the grant writing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Letter of support.
Letter of support. But at this time, we cannot have a permanent fixture. They're gonna have to be able to just go with their temporary ones because we have not completely finished designing our park.
And I think it's an interesting concept. These guys seem to be really eager about it, and yeah, the potential is there to bring people to the community. So I definitely suggest when we have those meetings about what we want the look of Coos Park to be, let's invite them into a couple of
Come to the
them.
board.
Yeah.
So, and also liability insurance with, naming the Village of Goose Creek on their insurance certificate. Third party.
Can I have a motion and a seconder? please?
No motion.
Second.
Take your drinks.
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, so no capital spending projects. Everything's all set there? Good. Okay.
What?
Nothing, no special projects or nothing that's concerning?
Capital and special projects are all underway to the
Yeah.
degree possible right now.
Okay. So our calendars? Ow!
We don't have our meeting, on the 26th.
It's April. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I keep wishing it was May.
5 o'clock?
Yeah,
April 26th?
April
Yes.
26th, and that'll be for the first 3 readings of the budget bylaws.
It should be a very short,
And it's at what time?
5 o'clock.
And
You're gonna
just,
send me a reminder,
And
right?
I won't be getting you dinner because it's a Friday night.
And just to let you know too,
Only if you bring wine.
There's wine and grapes.
we're shooting to have the agenda out for that by noon on the 25th. So, you guys. Give another 24 hours to,
Well, if all that's on there is those bylaws, I can have it out.
well, I gotta do $5.2 million reconciliation. I wanna make sure it's.
I know, get on that way.
I'm buying-
You
I'm
wanna
buying
work
myself
on a long
time here.
weekend? Here's what's coming in.
Extra East River Regional District meeting possibly Tuesday.
No, I'm doing,
Are you?
the 23rd, I'm doing.
You're going through the whole thing?
Yes.
Oh, that's better. Okay. Well, it's still
There.
on the calendar.
Yeah, they need me there at the regional district at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
25th is the museum meeting.
I forgot that.
25th of
I told
April?
you, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, Tara told me, and I just remembered, yeah, I'm sorry.
Museum meeting tomorrow, museum meeting, I'm tired. Library meeting tomorrow night. Hopefully there's a quorum.
Do that on the 25th.
May, now we're on NCLJ and we get back Friday night. So we're not doing the barbecue, Christopher.
I may actually be staying an extra couple of days, Your Worship.
You're not trying?
No, I am. I'm gonna bring the off-road motorcycle
We
in.
already had this discussion, you were putting it in the back of my truck. And you were driving me and I was gonna sleep. And Barb's gonna be in the back seat. I thought we had that discussion. And I thought I won.
We can bring that up tomorrow.
We're not gonna be here that weekend now?
It's either gonna be
We're
leading
home.
into it, Sandy, or at the end, but one of those weekends I'll have the kids. So, I'll either be staying in Williams Lake to do a little bit of dirt biking, or.
Really?
Yeah.
Hello, just be with me.
There's a lot of good trails in Williams Lake, and that's a long way to go.
This
to
corporate
that.
officer's going to the loony bin, so you're gonna have to be here for Friday.
Well, it's just a weekend.
Counselor, do you have a, report?
Counselor?
Counselor, right?
I think that's what she said.
I think
I'm not gonna be going to Fort Nelson because there's nobody else I can ride with and I'm not driving for 4 hours by myself. The only thing that they're going to cover is my gas. And there would be a $20 lunch if I stayed, there's a Lakeview Motel or something, and if you say you're going there for the meeting, it's only $90.
Oh, I'd.
But the only person that I could go with would be the person from Fort John, and I would have to stay till Sunday. And you have to take an artifact from the museum for the afternoon meeting, and I don't think they're gonna let me take an artifact.
Are you gonna take the drum out of the front?
Yes.
Counselor Smith. Let's see. I attended the Peace River Regional District on the 11th. I attended the press release with Premier Horgan on the 15th at the Peace River Regional District at 11:30 till 3. I went to the interprovincial municipal meeting today in Wembley. And now I'm at council, I think.
So what was the interprovincial one about?
Oh. I've given a copy.
That's where you got one of
This is a list of items that we discussed.
Can I see?
I was gonna read them out.
No stars. So how did that work? No stars.
No decisions have been made. We just still not listened. I made notes. The mutual aid, this is too late at night for me to go down the list and tell you lots of things were discussed, but at this stage of the game, it's just, we discussed everything from healthcare to rural policing. There's a little bit of concern that Alberta has changed their licensing for Class 1 because of the Humboldt. And they are sending people back that have just got their class 1 in the last 18 months to go back to school. They gotta get 340 hours before they get class 1.
Just photocopy that and counselors can look at it.
Well, I don't have all my,
That's okay. You can't photocopy that?
Yeah.
We can?
I don't have my notes, but well, I was just saying.
Well, you said you were too tired. Is that it, or?
Yep.
Counselor Hebert.
Nothing.
Counselor Drover.
Attended that meeting with regards to Caribou at the County Event Center. And that was a delightful time, right till 10 o'clock when I left there. And it was very informative, and I was very proud of Leckstrom and Bernard. They both spoke well. One individual who I thought was instrumental in getting our voices heard was Kathleen Connolly with Concerned Citizens for Caribou Recovery. Is there anything that we can do as a political entity to support that organization?
No, Clifford?
The chamber, your worship?
No, the citizens,
Concerned
citizens.
We have we've written numerous letters on the Caribou Initiative. I don't recall off the top of my head if one of them was to Concerned Citizens or not.
I believe it was teaching.
Can you reach
I know-
out to Kathleen tomorrow to see if she needs anything from the village?
Yeah, for sure. I know, we've been at this for better part of a year. It's been on our agendas for a long time.
Yeah,
because
well,
we kind of caught wind early on that this was happening before it really got, widely known in the marketplace there, but.
Well, yeah, so I would make the motion that we reach out to Kathleen and see if there's anything that we can do as a
I'll
community
second
to
that.
assist their movement. Thank you.
Anything else, Ken?
No. There is, but no. In interest of time and sanity, no.
I attended the Save on Foods, opening. Met all the big wigs of Save On. It's actually a very nice store.
It is.
Met with Horgan, talked about the MRI clinic, asked him if he was coming up this summer, would like to tour him on the MRI clinic. And he said if we had any concerns, just to reach out to him, and I said, oh, okay then.
Are you asking for trouble?
Yeah. So that's my report. We have in-camera none, rising report none, and I wanna
Motion to adjourn.
Do one thing.
You guys know I'm not here for the first